Latvian Economics and Innovations Forum. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to Latvia, to Riga, our wonderful capital, and this exceptional venue, the Latvian National Library. It is not by accident that the World Federation of Free Latvians insisted we use this beautiful venue for the forum. Allow me to explain. Our National Library is not simply a building, but a repository of knowledge and the soul of the Latvian people. This world-class building was designed by the internationally renowned architect Gunārs Birkerts. You see, Gunārs Birkerts, along with his family, was among those people who were forced to flee the shores of Latvia in Soviet occupation, along with many of you represented here today. He received his education, gained knowledge and experience in the West. In all of his essence, he is exactly what this forum is about. Education, knowledge, and capital are all important parts of circular mobility or brain circulation. Mr. Birkerts is an exceptional example of how we have been able to engage our diaspora and how he has brought back his skills to the country of his birth. In Latvian folklore, a crystal mountain symbolizes the height of achievement, something not easily attainable, but full rewards for those who make the commitment to reach its peak. Latvian literature and folklore also speak of the Castle of Light as a metaphor for seeking out wisdom that has been lost but will rise again from the depths of the river Daugava. After the Latvian people have overcome the intellectual darkness of war, invasion, and occupation. Birkerts has incorporated both of these evocative Latvian myths into the design of this building. Hopefully we too will gain a thirst for knowledge, enlightenment, and inspiration from this building and the people in it today. And we will gain from one another over the next 2 days. On behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in cooperation with the World Federation of Free Latvians and supported by the Ministry of Economics, Latvia's Investment and Development Agency, the American Latvian Chamber of Commerce, and the Latvian Chamber of Trade and Commerce, the Stockholm Economic College, and the Latvian Institute, let me welcome you here today. Please join me in welcoming Her Excellency, Mrs. Laimdota Straujuma, Prime Minister of Latvia, for her opening remarks. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I welcome all of you here today. I thank Ambassador Elfers for introduction. We are meeting today at our Castle of Light. This truly special building was the center of Europe for the 6 months. It is also the symbol of our joint achievements, the symbol of what Latvians living in different parts of the world can accomplish together. It was over 150 years ago when one of the fathers of our nation, Krišjānis Valdemārs, said, "Latvija, brauciet jūriņā, Latvians, take to the sea." Then it was a time of national awakening, and this was a call for emancipation, a plea to become independent both politically and economically. But it was also a plea to learn new skills, gain new experiences, and bring them back to our Latvia. Ladies and gentlemen, Latvians have been living, and many continue to live, all over the world. Contribution of diaspora to the transformation of Latvian economy since regaining independence has been instrumental to the overall development of our country. Since becoming a member state of the European Union, many Latvians have used their right of free movement to study and work abroad. It's our duty to engage them and include you into Latvia's development. When I am abroad, I like to meet with our diaspora community. I am proud of their achievements. Your success is our success, because together we make up Latvian nation. Even from my own family's perspective, my niece was able to use her rights as an EU citizen and study in the United Kingdom. After receiving her education, she was able to find work in her specialty and continues to develop her career. I am convinced she will be able to gain experience and later share her knowledge. And I hope she will use her knowledge and help our country to prosper. There are many positives from having Latvians throughout the world. They gain experience, knowledge, education, language, and business skills, as well as capital. And they invest their knowledge and experience in development of their homeland. Only by engaging our diaspora, we can live in prosperous and dynamic Latvia. Dear friends of Latvia, today, for the second time, Latvians from all around the world have come together here in Riga. You have come together to discuss and search for better ways how to prosper in a global market. Latvia, as a young market economy, has faced all stages of the economic cycle. Now, after 25 years, we are familiar with both rapid growth and tough decline. We have learned from our mistakes and become smarter and stronger. We have managed to make painful adjustments and implement structural reforms. We are among fastest growing EU economies. According to the latest forecast of the European Commission, Latvia's economy will grow by 2.3% this year and by 3.2% next year. Our steady together work has gained recognition internationally. Nevertheless, the well-being of Latvia is closely linked to export and creation of competitive and innovative products. In current conditions, it has become crucial to diversify export markets and avoid external economic vulnerability. Growth trends of the global economy are shifting into the direction of markets not traditional for Latvia. Also, the regional geopolitical situation affects economic development. Therefore, we need to be open, flexible, and innovative in order to succeed in the current economic environment. Dear friends, and here we see the role of our nationals and those who are or feel Latvians in their hearts. Many of you are highly successful professionals working in world-famous international companies. Your global experience, world views, and knowledge will be crucial in advancing new business skills here. I am very happy to see so many high-level professionals from the fields of media, medical engineering, smart technologies, IT, and others. These are fields where, with joint efforts, Latvia can become a truly global economic player. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I invite you to play even greater role in building our common Latvia and help us celebrate our first centenary, so our country, Latvia, can have many more to come. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all and all of us very open and fruitful debates, and welcome to Latvia. Thank you.
Now it is my honor to introduce His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Latvia, Mr. Edgars Rinkēvičs, who was one of the initiators and highly supportive of the first Latvian World Economics and Innovation Forum. Welcome.
Labrīt. A very good morning, Madam Prime Minister, Chairman Kukainis, dear ladies and gentlemen. It is a little bit strange to be back here in this building where actually only a couple of days ago we had the last meetings during the first Latvian presidency of the European Union Council. And this has been the good event, the good period of 6 months where Latvia has been able to show that we can manage and we can lead the very complex organization. It has been also great testimony of maturity of our civil service, of our government, of our diplomatic corps. But I also want to thank some of you because you have been also actively assisting us during that period in your countries where you live. If I have to address now a couple of challenges that we have ahead of us, I just want to mention 3 priorities that Ministry of Foreign Affairs will be working, and of course the government as general body will be working. The first one is the enhancement of the Baltic and Latvian security. I think what we see currently in the eastern neighborhood of the European Union, events in Ukraine, also situation as it develops in the southern neighborhood of European Union has put this priority back high on the agenda of the government, also on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We are tirelessly working with our allies to secure and to reassure our citizens, our people, but also the whole region. Second is promotion of economic ties within the European Union, as well as finding new markets, new trading partners outside of the European Union. That is going to be and continuously going to be one of priorities that we are going to work together with other government agencies, as well as our embassies and of course the business community. And here, of course, I do hope also that you, with your experience, with your knowledge, with your ideas, will be very helpful. The third one is, of course, the strengthening relations with Latvian diaspora all over the world. Officially, as Ambassador Elfets has put in my notes, in my speaking notes, Latvians live in 120 countries. And wherever I go, like Prime Minister has just said, we try to meet you. Be it Lebanon, be it Australia, be it Estonia, or be it Brazil. And I will not go through the list of 120 countries, so that I don't bore you too much. But here I want to say that your experience, your knowledge is very important to us. And again, according to the information given to me by Ambassador, annually you send back to Latvia around 600 million euros. Thank you for that. But also you give us your knowledge, your ideas, and to that end, I think that the project that we started 2 years ago, the first forum, proved to be resounding success. A lot of ideas, a lot of exchanges, a lot of also mutual exchanges between Latvians, the communities coming from different parts of the world. So I do hope that also today and tomorrow, when there is going to be live discussions, exchanges of ideas, we will leave this event mutually enriched and much more, let's say, knowledgeable Also, this is a great opportunity for us to tell you how Latvia is developing, where we see we have to work probably harder. And finally, I want to say that we are working also in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to expand and a little bit restructure our embassy network. We are going to open embassies outside of the European Union, like in the countries that are interesting for us, not only from the point of view of economics or politics, but also diaspora. And of course here I want to use this opportunity and to remind the Prime Minister that it sometimes also costs a little bit. And I do hope also for the general government support, but we are going to expand to countries like Republic of Korea, Brazil, also Singapore, and very much hope that by the end of this decade we will be also able to open our embassy in Australia, as well as also Consulate General in the West Coast of the United States. So I'm using, as you understand, this event also for a big political pressure on the government to support me, and also I hope that you will support this idea also during today's and tomorrow's interaction. So finally, I want to thank all organizers. Ambassador Elfetz has mentioned those who have been very supportive, but I also want to thank Ambassador Elfetz himself for working with issues of diaspora and also on this particular event. So looking forward to hear the first panel. I think we are just on time, so very much looking forward also to today's discussion and also results of today's and tomorrow's meetings that would definitely help us here in Latvia and will help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And I'd like now to welcome Andris Bērziņš, Alex Karlsons, and Peter Stupans to come and take their places. As they're taking their places, I would like to say that Andris Bērziņš I met for the first time in Germany many years ago. Peter Stupans I met in Australia even more years ago. And Alex Karlson's family I know from growing up in the United States. And where better than the four of us and all of you to meet than in Latvia? Because this is what brings us together, that we who are our parents, who our grandparents are from Latvia, and we share our common heritage, and we share a certain, let's say, duty calling to our direct or indirect homeland. And the first one speaking will be Andris Bērziņš. He is, as I mentioned, I met him in Germany, but he's lived in Australia, UK, US, and now he brings his knowledge to us to Latvia. He will be giving each person 5 to 7 minutes to tell about how they came to Latvia and how they feel we can gauge Latvia's diaspora better to promote and support our economy. So please, Andris. You can sit or stand, it's up to you.
Thanks, Peter. So thank you very much for inviting me here. And I have a kind of a long geographic story, as Peter said. Growing up in Australia and England, I actually returned here in the early 90s for 3 years, and then moved to the US to study at Stanford for my MBA, and then spent almost 9 years in total in the US, and then came back. So 10 years ago, my wife and I came back here with our 4 kids, and so the story is kind of long, but the reason we really came back at the time was we wanted our family to grow up here, and we were looking for opportunities. And I think even back 10 years ago, I had worked in technology startup companies in the US and elsewhere, and there was some activity here, but the kind of Silicon Valley style startups were not to be found on every corner. And I actually spent the first 5 years back here commuting, working around Europe and the Middle East and elsewhere, and seeing my family on the weekend. Well, I can happily report that things have changed. So about 3.5 years ago now, I met some entrepreneurs here who were starting technology businesses and who were getting together, and I felt for the first time the atmosphere that I'd seen in Silicon Valley and in tech companies in the US. And so we started together a non-profit that runs a startup co-working space. So here in the Old Town, we have now about 1,000 square meters where new technology startups can establish themselves, starting with a desk and internet, and can grow. And we have several companies already in the last 3 years that have grown out of this space and from the community that we've built up, and raised money from investors across Europe, and are now scaling up their businesses to sell globally. So I think what's exciting for me is that there are opportunities here both to do business and to help build companies that can scale globally and work in global markets. But also personally, it's a place where you can make a difference. So I think being able to start this up, being able to work with the government, with the ministries, to try and get the best possible policies to help startups and technology companies here has been appreciated. The Prime Minister has invited me to participate in some of the discussions about how to grow these industries, and those kind of opportunities are not available everywhere. And it's great to be able to see new companies grow and things happen and change, and to have a hand in doing so. So that's, I think, an opportunity that I hope many of you find if you are not back here. In terms of what the opportunity is with the diaspora, I think the opportunity is great, and I think it's actually really largely untapped. So in the last 3 years or so, as we've been starting this, obviously we're trying to make publicity about technology startups in Latvia, and I've come across a number of people who I had no idea existed, but that work somewhere in the world in the space of, in a relevant space in the technology space. One of them sitting at the front here, Jans Krums, who's in the US, and he's now got a startup which has just hired a developer here in Latvia. And these kind of people who we've been able to connect more to Latvia and get involved mean that the diaspora can both work for themselves, build their businesses, but also be connected and have a positive impact on Latvia. And I still think the greatest challenge we have is that there are many people in the diaspora we simply do not know exist, or rather the right people who need to talk to them simply don't know they exist. So actually, I'm pushing a proposal today because I'm an entrepreneur, so I like to do things in a practical way. So I've actually penned an article in the magazine Ir today, again saying I think we need to have a very simple thing. It's a LinkedIn group, which the ambassador himself, I think, should actually promote, to actually search for the diaspora. And it's pretty damn simple. You put in Bērziņš in LinkedIn, and there's 500 in the UK and US alone, many of which I don't know. And because we're very fortunate, the Latvian set of names we use is very limited. So it actually would just take some legwork for someone to literally do the searches, make the invitations, and find these people. And actually being able to have a way to find the relevant person in the relevant place that you might need for a little bit of help for one introduction, I think that's the first step we should make. So, thank you.
That is also what our minister said in the first forum, that we need to build on the global network of Latvia. You and our compatriots beyond our borders are the Latvian global network. So next up, Alex Gorosovs.
Thank you, Ambassador. Welcome. Madam Prime Minister and Minister Rinkēvičs. So I will, I work in the real estate business and hospitality industry. I'm not going to really go into that because I think those right now are not industries which are necessarily the most exciting industries and provide the greatest opportunities for Latvia. Just as a background, I've been living here for almost 9 years. I came out here before the large economic crisis and have decided to stay and weather it through. On a personal level, I very much agree with what Andris said. There are opportunities here. You can make, if you find the right niche, you can really make a difference. And it's actually a fantastic, if you find these things, this country is actually a fantastic place to raise a family and start a family. And I think that's something that it's always worth keeping in mind. But I'd like to focus on what are the challenges here in Latvia, and maybe what we as the Latvia, or I guess I'm not the diaspora anymore, you are the diaspora, what we can do and what we should remember. First of all, I think living here, it's important for us to remember what right now are the biggest challenges facing Latvia and facing Latvian businesses. I think much of the Latvian diaspora probably emphasizes, or in their mind, worries about the security situation and specifically the influence of Russia. But I would say that's not per se the biggest challenge and the biggest challenge for Latvia. It really is Latvia itself, meaning this security issue disappears as long as we have a functioning democratic government. As long as we don't allow Russia to influence us, and as long as our government functions, then that threat is minimal. For the U.S. diaspora, there's a much larger threat, which is really FACTA and the U.S. IRS and those laws, which I know affect a lot of people in these rooms, but that's a different topic for a different discussion. So I would say, as the Latvian diaspora, specifically when we talk about our civil society, the Latvian diaspora should be thinking how we continue building the civil society which has been built in Latvia. And specifically, I would say the biggest challenges threatening business right now are conflicts of interests, corruption issues in the government, and specifically when we look at in the specific areas that we should be focusing on is court reform, because without a functioning court system, business simply cannot function. And unfortunately, while we've seen some positive steps, I would remind government representatives that is a major issue which has not been adequately addressed from business community's perspective. And to remember that there is always internal pressure that is from Latvians, from Latvian society to from a certain segment of Latvian society to weaken our government institutions, and that has been a challenge since 1991, and it continues to be, and it's a battle that I think partially has been successfully won, but it's a battle that's not over, and that we should not forget about. And a specific example of that is we should not forget the importance of not only court systems, but institutions like CNAB and those institutions that ensure that our civil society plays by fair rules. Now, what can the Latvian diaspora do to encourage that civil society? First of all, of course, it's important to try to engage in elections and whatnot. But I think there are other ways that I would remind the Latvian diaspora. As Andris mentioned, there's not only a wealth of knowledge, but in reality, there's literally also financial wealth which can help support our Latvian civil society. So I think the Latvian diaspora, if they're wondering how can we be involved in Latvia, how can we affect the strengthening of this civil society? Of course, it's participating in elections, but it's also supporting NGOs and projects which always desperately need funding which help ensure this civil society, whether that is one of the older NGOs like Delna or some of the newer initiatives. And I will take this opportunity to sort of plug two specific initiatives, which actually Andris already mentioned. In Latvia, one of the key elements that I see as someone living here and a businessman to ensure that our civil society is functioning is a free media and an adequate media. And that really has always been a challenge in Latvia. And that's why I have been an active supporter of the founding of Žurnāls Ir, and we are also supporters of a new initiative of investigative journalism, Ray Baltica, and these are dedicated journalists which really do this out of a passion for knowledge and truth, and these type of initiatives are critical for if Latvia is going to continue to develop. So I would, at a minimum, everyone should subscribe to Žurnāls Ir. Everyone should everyone on Facebook should look up Ray Baltica, and even donations of 100, 500 euros is they do a great job, because Ray Baltica, Žurnāls Ir, they're the ones who I see putting pressure on society, on civil society to do in investigative journalism, so that we really know what's going on in the government and what needs to be addressed. So that's my reminder for the diaspora. Even if you don't find a business opportunity here, remember that you can help in small ways. And I completely agree. It is always amazing. There are a lot of us out there that we don't know about, and I think that is a very good effort, and we see through the American Chamber of Commerce, through the honorary consuls, which are now being set up, at least in the United States, that these types of initiatives from our side here in Latvia, in the private sector, and to the extent possible from the government sector, are certainly things that we should support. Those are my 2 cents. Thank you very much, and there we go.
Next up, Pēters Tupans.
Paldies, Pēter. Madam Prime Minister, Mr. Rinkēvičs, dear guests, I came to Latvia from Australia back in 1999, so it's been a whole 16 years, almost to the day, that I've been here. Latvia was quite different back then. European Union was only perhaps a dream at that stage. I think entry discussions hadn't even commenced. And the whole landscape has changed remarkably in these past 16 years. Back at the time, I was perhaps unexpectedly offered the role as the CEO of a fairly significant for Latvia, that is, publicly listed company, pharmaceutical company Grindex, which at the time was struggling to get out of the hole of the previous Russian crisis, if anybody remembers that. But for various reasons, I would suggest that perhaps perhaps route of entry to Latvia is not the wisest one or the best one for a diaspora Latvian to take the leap into Latvian business today. After spending some 12 years in the Latvian corporate world, I then started my own company, manufacturing and marketing playgrounds to the European market. In the last 3 years, we've grown from nothing to some 2 million euros in the next 5 years. We expect to grow to 8, and also diversifying somewhat. This is the reason or the rationale is I saw the timber processing, which happens in Latvia and is still one of the leading exports of export income earners for Latvia, is still doesn't maximize its value chain. Yes, there are processing operations that happen, but many do not maximize the value that can be gained from the total chain, and so hence I chose this niche. Hence I've had some experiences in this, not just this last 3 years in my own company, but in the previous 12 years of Latvian industry and how it interconnects with the greater or international business world. And which, of course, this is very critical for Latvia to grow from where it is today and take the next leap. And let's remember, we are still on various economic scales, starting with GDP per capita somewhere towards the bottom of the EU list, you know, just above in the end Romania and Bulgaria. My observations are Latvians are overall extremely smart, savvy, hard-working, technically very competent. Latvia produces and manufactures products and services cost-effectively and to a high quality for a global market. However, design-wise, products are often developed and marketed only according to what local Latvians see as being interesting, tasteful, and not necessarily taking in the global context. Hence, export sales are not often developed anywhere near to the maximum potential, and various reasons. It's very important to find the correct international customers, dealers, distributors, and they're not always easy to find. They take many years for these networks to develop and to cultivate before bearing fruit. Export sales and marketing efforts are really a soft skills, as opposed to the hard skills of engineering, manufacturing, technical skills. And these soft skills are ones which perhaps are harder to teach in business schools and to learn quickly. But these take years to develop. And in the end, the local, the language set which is expected, Latvian, Russian, English, serves well in most of the world, but not everywhere. There are many parts of the world where these languages are not adequate and sufficient to do real business. Even if we see international English as being the language of international business, it doesn't always apply universally. However, as we know, and as we've learned this morning, Latvians are not only everywhere, but 120 countries in the world. And we have a number of generations of diaspora, not just diaspora Latvians, but patriotic diaspora Latvians who have attained very high senior levels in industry in all kinds of sectors and in many different countries. And they wish to create and maintain business links with Latvia. And hence I propose this important role for a diaspora Latvian who is interested in fostering business in Latvia. That is as effectively a foreign business agent for Latvian companies. And this ties in very closely what Anders mentioned, that we need to really be able to find where are these people, where are these industries in Latvia that need this function, and where are these people worldwide. And yes, bears in many. I'm stunned. You look at movie credits often, and if you're patient enough to look through the hundreds of names, often you come across a Latvian name stuck in there. Latvians are everywhere. So these Latvian foreign business agents could, utilizing their specific industry sector knowledge and experience, can foster Latvian export in that market country or region. They could jumpstart these export efforts for Latvian companies. They know not only the local language, but the lay of the land, the culture, the business requirements, the product tastes of those markets. And often they will have the very critical, as we know, often it's just a chance contact with the right person at the right time just makes all the difference. And they have these contacts. So that is one way I see that diaspora Latvians can foster Latvian business efforts. Alternatively, my suggestion is to do similar to my colleagues and I, to come to Latvia, take the leap of faith, and become like us. Come to Latvia and start a business. It's not as scary as it perhaps may seem. It's really not a bad place for doing business. The bureaucracy is not as scary as some would say. The tax scales are actually much more favourable than some would make you think. And the market on Latvia's doorstep is massive. And I would like to think that a well-educated and business-experienced diaspora Latvian is extremely well placed to serve as an entrepreneur, a startup entrepreneur in Latvia. Yes, that is to say that in the end, doing business in Latvia can be at times frustrating. One does need to be at times like a chameleon. You do not come to Latvia and expect everything to function just the same way as it does in the country that you come from. But that's the same all over the world. Things in Germany don't function the same way as they work in the US or in Australia. But the rewards are here, even if they're not financial. As my colleague said, for fostering and for growing a family, the place is fantastic. The culture is unbelievable, and I haven't regretted a thing.
Thank you, Peters. Now we have time for a few questions. We have some microphones around. Who will take the first shot? Come on. Okay, please.
Hi, I guess this question is for Mr. Beersing. Could you go into a little more detail about, I guess it's Tech Hub Riga is your organization, in terms of like the public-private partnership aspects of it, and has the government, supported it, or is that purely a private venture? Thank you.
Sure, thanks. So, yes, it is Tech Hub Riga, and I will take the opportunity to do a plug as well. Tonight at 7 p.m. we have a monthly meetup. Everyone who wants to see what happens in the Latvian technology startup scene, I'll be leaving here at around 7, and you can come over with me to see what happens there. It's a non-profit, so the 4 of us founders and now also 2 more board members are entrepreneurs. So we have day jobs. This is not our job. We do not take a salary. We set it up as a non-profit specifically for the reason that we can then be independent, and also we can go to sponsors looking for financing for this organization and say clearly that we're not benefiting personally, which I can assure you is a shock to many people here in Latvia. Everyone imagines that there's some scheme behind it, but there isn't. But largely actually the funding comes from the members. So the members actually pay for the services. In effect, they're paying a subsidized rate. And we cover the rest of it with events that we run, some of which we can attract sponsorship for, and some general sponsors. And there is also some government support. So the Ministry for Economics has supported several events. And what was the Latvian Guarantee Agency now is Altum, has some funding programs which allow us to, they basically help cover the cost of events, which in the end helps us cover that budget. As an independent organization, it helps us being able to clearly say, here's the voice of the entrepreneurs of startups as to what, we think should happen with government policy. And I think that's been the biggest benefit of organizing it as something independent and a non-profit. The challenge, of course, is you have to keep it funded, and that's some work. But that's the way it is. Yeah. So you can come see it tonight if you like.
A question in the back.
Hi, Sandra Kļaviņa. I'm one of the people who has taken the leap of faith and come to Latvia a couple of months ago to start a business. You can recognise my accent. Some of you can, Australian, but I have lived in Italy for 20 years and have come here to open Italian-related businesses. Some of you, the panel members, Mr. Carlson's actually said that hospitality and real estate may not be interesting areas to open businesses in here in Latvia. And Mr. Stupan said, you know, come and open a business. Which areas of business would you recommend would be those that would be the most attractive in the current market? Thank you.
Just to emphasize, the real estate industry, hospitality industry, there are certainly opportunities. They're specific. What I meant is we're not in the same sort of irrational boom time as we were before. It's much more a long-term niche planning currently. But so I deal with a number of I have a number of tenants though. And also our guests coming through the hotel. So we get a little picture to see of what the activity here is in Latvia. And one of the main sectors, which actually we were also just discussing, is the medical sector. That's both education and devices and FDA testing. We see, first of all, which is actually quite a boom for Latvian real estate, is universities like Straujums University have largely or have created really large export products in attracting German, Swedish medical students. And it seems, hopefully, that is actually a sector that will continue to grow and continue to be supported both at that university level and the state level, because that certainly has an overflow benefit to other sectors of the economy. Similarly, like I was just mentioning to some other participants here, for example, my godfather, they've been working with Straujums University, Kristaps Zariņš, and they've been working with Straujums University for over 10 years now in doing FDA trials for drugs and medical devices. And Latvia has become one of the most, which it's a very tough, difficult process, but Latvia has become a trusted member of the FDA, which really just proves the quality of our medical professionals, and that is an industry which, at all costs, needs to be fostered here in Latvia. We do also, obviously, IT is. There is, as everywhere in the world, there is huge potential for that, and we see that coming through our tenants too, and the people who stay at the hotel. We see a myriad of small IT companies, startup companies working in various IT sectors. There are, of course, other well-established Latvian American IT companies here in Latvia. And I would also emphasize, having worked with the Foreign Investors Council and the American Chamber of Commerce for many years, there is a lot of niche manufacturing which takes place actually quite often outside of Riga. And we see, for one example, we have in Valmiera, where the Germans have been involved in production of fiberglass and fiberglass materials, and there are a number. Latvia, for many reasons, has not the historic reasons, really in the 90s, failed to attract large-scale manufacturing, perhaps as the Czech Republic did. We don't have any large, VW, BMW parts manufacturers and such, but there are a growing number of niche manufacturers that actually take, as was mentioned, take advantage of a very positive business environment here, because the ease of setting up companies, the tax system, and if you're in the right place, transport and logistics, it's ideal for certain niche, more knowledge in intensive manufacturing. And we still see, even though the overall the transport and logistics sector, sorry, too long. Okay, I'm gonna transport and logistics. We still see through discussions with companies like Maersk and whatever that they see long-term potential here. Someone wants to add something else.
Just quickly, the original question was about what sector to enter. When I took an approach to what business I wanted to start, I didn't start with sector. I looked at what criteria I wanted, and the prime criteria were I didn't want to orientate on necessarily the local market. Not that there's anything particularly bad about the local market. It's just it's limited. It's small. We only have 2 million people, and with a certain purchasing power. Hence, however, on our doorstep, we have much bigger opportunities. If you wanted to make a significant business locally, you have to have a major market share. And it might be too late to start a business to get to major market share position very quickly. I wanted a big market, so it meant export by definition. That means you can go to niches and still have a significant turnover because you're gearing for a 500 million person market. So that's the way I look at it.
We have to close this session for the coffee break, and I'd like to thank the Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs for attending, and also for a round of applause for our panel. The Prime Minister would like to say a few words, and I of course cannot refuse her.
Yes. Many thanks to all of you three. And I now discussed with Minister of Foreign Affairs that I will establish under my office, or in my office, I want to establish a Latvian advisory board. Latvian, which are not from Latvia, but from somewhere, because, yeah. But the Latvians, because you have really a lot of good ideas. When we met with Andris Bērziņš, we discussed about startups, and what I listened about our court system, it is, I know. And I asked all business organizations to send me their concerns. And we will have a meeting with Minister of Justice in middle of August, and we will go through all concerns of business related with all these questions. Now we will be a little bit more busy because these 6 years passed. And we can start to solve these questions. Many thanks, really. Thanks for what you, it was very important for me.
You heard it here first. So a coffee in the back. Also take the opportunity to go up to the 12th floor for an even better view.